commission that was done in secret. If Evan Solomon, it seems, could introduce this art collector to some famous and influential people like Jim Balsillie, formerly of Research in Motion at BlackBerry, and Mark Carney, who was the governor of the Bank of Canada, now the governor of the Bank of England. Apparently, much of this went on without the CBC knowing anything about it until recently, it seems. Kevin Donovan and the Toronto Star came to the CBC this week with very specific allegations, and it only took about a day and a half before Evan Solomon was suspended and then let go from the CBC.
That's the CBC's James Murray in Toronto. People across Edmonton left their porch lights on overnight in memory of Constable David Woodall. Blue ribbons are also being tied on trees in honor of the officer who was shot and killed this week in the line of duty. Woodall was among a number of officers who came under fire as they attempted to carry out an arrest warrant. Prime Minister Harper is at sea this morning off the coast of Poland aboard the Canadian frigate HMCS Fredericton on a tour the Prime Minister's office had been trying to keep under wraps. Here's the CBC's Terry Milewski.
Prime Minister Harper's not-so-secret trip to the Baltic Sea is underway now, and although reporters are still under a news blackout as to the details, the Polish Prime Minister, Ewa Kopacz, let the cat out of the bag yesterday in Warsaw. Stephen Harper's officials, in the name of security, had imposed a news embargo on his visit to the Fredericton, a Canadian frigate, until later this afternoon when the visit is over. Evidently unaware that the Canadians were treating it as a big secret, Prime Minister Kopacz announced it to attack rumour journalists. Canadian officials handled this diplomatically, saying there's really no danger, which raises the question why it was secret in the first place. Such embargoes are normal if the Prime Minister goes into a war zone at Kandahar or Kandahar, but there is no hot water in the Baltic, and the Russians, of course, are well aware of NATO movements here. The Prime Minister wraps up his visit this evening and moves on to Rome to meet the Pope. Terry Milewski, CBC News on the Baltic coast of Poland.
Speaking there of Russia, in the midst of ongoing EU sanctions, Russian President Vladimir Putin is in Italy today. Here's CBC's Margaret Evans.
A warm welcome for Vladimir Putin at the Milan Expo this morning, where he was visiting the Russia Pavilion, along with thanks and a hug from the Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi.
Il Presidente Putin autorizza tutti amici e amici.
Putin hosted Renzi back in Moscow in March, and there is some speculation in the European media that with this visit, Putin is testing European unity. EU leaders will decide at a summit later this month whether or not to extend sanctions they put in place after Russia annexed Crimea in 2014. But his visit to Italy is two-pronged, and his visit to the Vatican later in the day is garnering just as much attention, and here too pundits will be looking for messages on the Ukraine crisis. So far, Pope Francis has stepped very carefully on the subject of Ukraine. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
2 Canadians have appeared in court in Malaysia facing public nuisance charges. They were climbing a mountain in Borneo last week when an earthquake hit, and local authorities are accusing the Canadians and others of causing the earthquake. They say the tourists angered the spirits on the mountain by posing naked for photos at the summit. It's expected they'll be held in custody until at least the weekend. 18 people were killed in the earthquake. And that is the CBC News.